Ready? Okay, it is 3 o'clock. Let's go ahead and call the Millcreek Township General Authority meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do we have any public comments on any of the agenda items? Ms. Weber? Even though you're known, just state your name and address, please.
And it says sign this. There's a sheet up here.
Yep.
Okay. Is this on? Okay, it is. My name is Sue Weber, and I live at 5338 Norris Drive here in Millcreek. I see the closing documents for the Sandbar and the Manor Motel are on the agenda. I just had a couple questions. With regard to the Manor Motel, did you end up with $25,000 worth of expenses if you want to correct the asbestos and the gas well problem?
Did we, Mark, you?
Are there problems that were discovered that dealt with asbestos or gas well or whatever that would cost $25,000 to remedy?
I think that's the general price range. I don't recall the exact numbers.
Well, if that's the case, did you ask them for a price reduction?
Yes.
Did they say yes?
No.
They didn't?
No.
Did you tell them, well, I think I'll walk away if you won't do that?
Did I? No.
Did anybody try that?
And this is really just it's not a question and answer session, as you know.
Okay, all right.
So,
My next question, and it is a question, why was there no appraisal of the Sandbar when all the other properties had an appraisal? Mr. Bach, do you know?
I do not know that. I asked the same question many months ago.
Well, seeing as you were working with public money, there should have been one. And the only other comment I have here is, you know, the property across from the Bel Air that just sold for $144,312 an acre. The Sheets property, which is very valuable, where Sheets sits, is valued at $285,673 an acre. You are paying with public money for the property the Sandbar sits on, $1,284,703 per acre. And I think that's an incredibly unethical use of public money.
okay, thank you.
Hi, Carol Blake. I live at 2216 South Shore Drive, 16505. I have a piece of what I wanted to say to you today that I will pull out because it does deal with an agenda item. Back in June of 2022, you agreed to hire Altair, which is basically a company which deals in real estate brokerage, property management. The statement has been made more than once during the past 6 months that the developer wants a big open parcel to work with. That being said, we can only guess, because of the lack of real information, that that direction may have indeed been made by Altair. So now today, according to item 6 on your agenda, you will again be voting to approve a contract extension for real estate and a letter of engagement for project design services. I believe that, again, that will involve Altair. I am somewhat perplexed that you may be using Altair services to direct you in both the design and development of this large project. With all due respect, when one considers the bios of the Altair staff, they are very short on design, and there is only one staff member who has any experience at all in urban design, and they show no one involved in preservation. It is hard to understand why you would not be casting a wider net to secure solid creative design and real knowledge of urban small city renewal expertise. This is a one-time shot. It should be done correctly, and it should be done with thought and creativity.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other comment on any of the agenda items? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Becky Bible. 5403 Fox Park Drive. I sent an email early this AM to all of you stating some concerns that I have with how the process is going in regard to the Gateway Project and specifically Laird School and related Millcreek history. I, at this point, fear that the taxpayers are headed to a costly letdown, that all the hype and publicity and architectural renditions will fall flat and leave us wanting. Because I have heard more than once, nothing is set in stone. And so if nothing is set in stone and we have very, very few facts to go on, it's disturbing. I wish for great things for this community and am pro-development. I feel again that creativity and expertise in small town revitalization is lacking in the plan. And I have asked that you look at another PA gem in Bucks County called Peddler's Village. And I sent a small video of that. And I'm here for public record to ask other Millcreek residents to view that. It's really pretty beautiful and well done. And so I sent the video clip for you to enjoy. You can look at much of the goings-on there via also Wikipedia. They have an overview. And there's another site that was real helpful. It was phillyburbs.com, which was very good too. So the other interesting thing, not just about the infrastructure and the development and the vitality of the area, but they have monthly festivals, events, and so on, and it's just all really, really healthy, positive stuff. And the potential that we have here is similar. It's priceless, really. The longevity of vitality is realistic for this area. So I want you to please consider what's going on there and what has been going on there for decades at Peddler's Village. It's an inspirational example for our area. And I must say, I can totally envision the use of Laird School in such a wonderful environment. And so, of course, I'm here promoting the future of Laird School. So Peddler Valley has monthly festivals. It's vibrant, it's lively. And if you want to talk about the impact on the economy, well, that's a whole nother ballgame. It is very healthy, very stable. So I'm just really here to promote that. And these are just my thoughts for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any more public comments on any agenda items? If not, okay, this time we will move on to the approval of the minutes, minutes of May 9th, 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of May 9th.
So moved by Ms. Mitchell
I'll second.
and second by Ms. Clear. Any questions or discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. Mr. Olet?
Yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
Ms. Clear?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, so those minutes are approved. Thank you. Agenda item number 5 is approval of bills. I think we just have 3 relatively benign bills. Questions or comments? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve those 3 bills.
I'll make a motion to accept the bills.
So moved by Ms. Clear,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Mitchell. Any additional questions, comments? If not, Mr. Olet,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Ms. Clear,
Yes.
and Ms. Mitchell.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Those bills are approved. Item number 6, we have 2 quotes or bids to review. The first one is the contract renewal for real estate services. Proposals from Altair Real Estate Services. Does anybody have any comments, discussion on the proposal?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, I had prepared a little summary, if
Absolutely.
that's all right.
Mr. Waldron,
Okay.
please
Yep.
proceed.
Thank you. Yes, this is a proposal to continue contract with Altair Real Estate Services. As you are aware, the township did engage Altair in June of last year. That agreement was assigned to the authority, by your election earlier this year. As part of their work for the township and the authority, the Altair has helped us develop our strategic plan for the corridor. They have assisted us with site control strategy for the parcels. They have helped us with planning services and the open houses and things like that we've had so far for the public. One of the big accomplishments was they helped us write and submit the RACP application that we submitted late last year that was awarded $3 million of funding from the Office of the Budget. They are currently working with us on the application and business plan to develop and receive that money from the Commonwealth. I think the reasons to continue on with Altair are numerous. First, they provide us expertise and assistance in areas that are outside of the township and the authority's core competency. They provide knowledge of the structure and financing of commercial developments. They provide connections to leaders of other communities that have undertaken similar efforts. They provide connections to and knowledge of a nationwide network of developers who have successfully brought these types of projects to market. They do have expertise in many different economic development finance tools that are available in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And they have extensive knowledge of the RACP requirements and procedures. As I mentioned, they assisted us in $3 million of the $3.5 million we've been awarded so far. These are the first RACPs that have ever been awarded to Millcreek Township. So unfortunately, we do not have expertise in administering these types of grants. There are extensive application requirements that they've been working to help us further, including a submission of a business plan that includes economic and community impact analysis, strategic development analysis, organizational management, project and construction scheduling, and the financial structure, what's known as the RDA forms that are required by the Office of the Budget. I would like to also point out that this is a project with a limited life cycle, and it does not make sense for a project of this type to hire on additional staff with this knowledge or capabilities. Consultants can and should be utilized for specific projects of a set duration, such as this, and it prevents the need for hiring additional staff with the attendant human resources required, the benefits that are required, legacy costs. Once a project is complete, then the consultant agreement can end. So far, I hope the authority feels the same way. I've been pleased to work with them from the beginning. They are the most knowledgeable about the project and the properties. They've assisted greatly in the RACP, as I've mentioned. And I would ask that if the authority so choose, that we move forward with the contract today so that progress can continue and there are no setbacks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Waldron. Comments from, discussion from the board? I mean, it's from my standpoint, it's a significant financial commitment at this point. I don't, we haven't, I know I've only had a couple of days to review this. They did a very good job for us in their initial work. I'm not sure how urgent it is to approve this at this meeting without maybe a little bit more discussion, but I wanted to hear others on the board, your input, and what everybody else thinks. That's what I think.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
I did forget one item from my presentation, and that is the cost. I meant to put that on the record. They do propose a total fee schedule of $132,500 for a yearly contract to be paid in 12 monthly contract installments.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Zimmer, I do concur with you. I'd like a little more time to review this contract also.
I'm good with that, too.
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman, excuse me, for Mr. Waldinger. Are there any RACP grant application deadlines that would need to be taken care of? Do we have anything that needs to be taken care of in the next month before we would reconvene to take a look at this contract?
We are currently under an extension. Our application and business plan was due May 11th. We did ask for and receive a 6-month extension.
Okay.
So it would now be due November 11th. So that would be the next deadline. Obviously, everything would have to be complete and submitted by then, but it is November. There is nothing in the next month.
Okay, and then as far as project development, when I was going through the scope of work and the project coordination, I wasn't sure if there was going to be, if there was anything, regarding developer day, or them reaching out to developers that would be, are we on any kind of a time-sensitive schedule?
Not that I would say time sensitive. Again,
Okay.
all those things were things that we had planned to occur sometime
Okay.
in the, next few months. A delay would just push those back, but
Okay.
there's no hard deadlines. no.
Okay, that's what I was worried about, is that we owe someone something that we're not going to have ready. Okay. Then I see no reason, I guess, if we have time.
Okay.
I
Ms.
agree.
Mitchell, you agree? Okay. And I think, this requires a little more discussion. Is this the format that we want to do it? I mean, it could be more of a, fee for certain service basis or whatever. I was just hesitant of making this large of a commitment this quickly without knowing exactly what we're doing. I mean, I think, like I said, they did an excellent job for us up to this point, but I think more discussion is warranted. So, glad everyone agrees. Okay. The second item is...
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think I would propose a motion to table it then for the next meeting.
We didn't have a motion though, right?
I'm suggesting that to
Make-
do a motion to table it.
Okay, do a motion to table it, okay. All right,
I'll make a motion to table the contract renewal for the real estate services for 1 month.
Okay,
I'll
second.
second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Okay, let's vote. Mr. Olet?
Yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
Ms. Cleary?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, okay. So the renewal is tabled until next meeting. Second quote we have is from Ingalls Planning and Design. Mr. Waldinger, could you help us with this one?
Absolutely, yes. This is a letter of engagement for project design I'm sorry, my mic was off. A letter of engagement for project design services with Ingalls Planning and Design. Ingalls Planning and Design worked on Embrace Millcreek with Charles Bucky's firm. They also are the entity that prepared the Presque Isle Gateway Plan, and they provided sketches both for the Township Zoning Code and its adoption process, and currently for the subdivision and land development ordinance that we are working on. We would like to engage Ingalls Planning and Design to provide concept sketches for the charrette that is planned for later this summer. They would come up with multiple concepts that we could present to the public to get feedback. He would then be available to incorporate any of that feedback received into an updated preferred conceptualization that then could be shared with the public. This contract is an as-needed contract. It would be hourly. The fee, depending on if it was a principal planner or a senior planner, would be either $175 an hour or $140 an hour. It does include travel time if necessary, and any costs would be eligible to be reimbursed. It includes a not-to-exceed price of $30,000, so it would not go any more than that. And I would recommend that if the board's comfortable, that they move forward with this agreement with Ingalls Planning and Design so that we can begin some of the work of creating these concepts.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on this? This is, I think, we had asked for this at our last executive
did.
session. We did.
Mhm.
We did discuss this.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Moved by Mr. Olet and seconded by Ms. Mitchell. Any additional questions or discussion? Okay, we'll call for a vote. Mr. Olet,
Yes?
Mr. Bach,
No.
Ms. Claire,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Okay, that contract is approved. Agenda item 7, resolution 2023 R2, resolution for the Township General Authority to amend its bylaws to authorize delegation of certain authority to conduct day-to-day operations of the authority. Mr. Shaw, would you like me to,
Yes.
would you like to take it?
Sure. Resolution 2023 R2, the purpose of this is to amend the bylaws to more clearly authorize the position of executive director to handle day-to-day operations of the authority. This person could be any officer of the authority or any staff position within the township. The change is found in section Roman numeral 1B, which reads as follows. The authority shall have the power to delegate the day-to-day operations of the authority and any decisions that need to be made instant thereto to any officer of the authority or to any Millcreek Township staff position, which shall be executed by the officer or person placed in that staff position. This person shall be known as the executive director of the general authority. This arose in part of just a kind of the recognition that without staff, and given that the meetings are once a month, that, you know, kind of need somebody on the ground to be nimble enough to respond to any kind of day-to-day stuff that may come up. I think last time, for instance, Mr. Bach pointed out there was a need to, you know, acquire some signage and so forth that was a minor amount, but we needed somebody to kind of do that. So the purpose of this is to amend the bylaws to accommodate for that activity.
Basically, to create executive director position to handle day-to-day issues, and it's, you know, from my standpoint, it's very difficult to, you know, get 5 people together and discuss it, and, you know, it's easier to have an executive director come to the board, I think, so. I know I support the resolution. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to point out that Matt Waldinger has done an excellent job since 2014, working on everything having to do with Embrace Millcreek and working on the development of the Gateway to Presque Isle project. So there is no one that knows more than Matt Waldinger. And I think he'll be a great conduit between some of these outside partners, too, that we're going to be in conversation with. So, yeah. I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Clear. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Any additional questions or discussion? And this is just to amend the bylaws to create the position.
Right.
Okay, we will vote. Mr. Olet,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Ms. Clear,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So the position of executive director is now created, and we'll amend the bylaws accordingly. Thank you. Item number 8 is Resolution 2023 R3, which is a resolution of the Millcreek Township General Authority delegating certain authority to oversee the day-to-day operations and decisions of the authority. Mr. Shaw?
Yes, and resolution.
I think it was a spoiler alert with our
Yes,
last
I know.
message.
Resolution 2023
Oops.
R3 is a follow-up to the prior resolution. The purpose of this is to designate the person who would serve in the role, designate the person who serves in the role of Millcreek Township Director of Planning and Development to also serve in the role as Executive Director of the authority. It further provides delegation of the day-to-day operations of the authority to that position and allowing the Executive Director to incur costs of up to $12,200, which happen to be the current limits where you need to get quotes. So anything below that, you don't need to get quotes for those types of expenses in order to make purchases or hire professional services, provided that such funds are available. I just picked the 12.2 because of that number. It could be a smaller number if you're more comfortable, but that was the number, at least I thought, as a starting point if you're comfortable with it. Again, at this point, there's not a lot of activity, but enough activity that I think it makes sense to have somebody day-to-day being able to conduct that activity. So that's what Resolution 2023 R3 provides for.
Okay, thank you for that description. Any comments, or if not, I'll accept a motion to approve Resolution 2023 R3.
So moved?
So moved by Ms. Clear. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Any additional questions or discussion? This will appoint the Director of Planning and Development, Mr. Waldinger, as the Executive Director of the authority. Okay, if no other questions, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Olet?
Yes.
Mr. Bach?
Yes.
Ms. Clear?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion is approved. Congratulations, Mr. Waldinger.
Another hat.
Go home and tell your family you got another job today, so, officially. Okay, now moving on to item 9, the sandbar closing document approvals. Mr. Shaw?
Yes, we have 3 documents before you. One is a settlement statement for the sandbar that needs to be signed for the closing. It reflects the amount that ultimately will be paid by the township at the closing, which in this case is $899,687.27. In addition, there is the purchaser's affidavit that's required by the title company. And again, that's required for the closing for the sandbar. It's a standard document that the title company requires to ensure certain facts exist. We're seeking authorization for the chairman to sign that. And then lastly is an exemption application, which was similar to what was filed for the other properties that the authority has acquired. We need to get approval to file and the authorization for the chairman to execute that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, discussion? This has been going on a while. We've extended it a couple of times.
I think once.
Once, okay.
Yeah, we gave it, I think this was a 30-day extension he sought, which was part of the original agreement that enabled him to do so if he needed it.
It allowed them to.
Yeah.
I guess I recall. Questions, comments? Motion to accept the sandbar closing documents?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Olet,
Second?
second by Ms. Clear. Any additional questions, discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. Mr. Olet?
Yes.
Mr. Bach?
No.
Ms. Clear?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. Moving on to item 10, the Manor Motel closing documents approval. Mr. Shaw?
Yes, there are 4 documents that need to be executed here. One is the settlement statement, and that amount ultimately that the township will be funding for that is $490,799.32. In addition, there is a similar purchaser's affidavit relating to the matter in the fashion I described for the sandbar. Also an exemption application. And then lastly, the only different document is there's also an indemnity and escrow agreement. This is an agreement that's needed to place funds that are to be paid by the seller in escrow to cover any taxes, interest, or penalties that would be due to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania as a result of this sale if the seller would fail to pay them. So the recommendation would be to approve these 4 documents.
Okay. Questions, comments? I do have one question. On that $20,000 agreement, where did we come up with $20,000? I mean, is there a chance the liability could exceed $20,000 or?
Yeah, we don't think there'll be any.
Okay.
But we threw a number out there that we think will cover what potential liability there may be. But
Okay.
the initial indication is that there shouldn't be any.
Okay. And to answer Ms. Weber's question on what we paid prior, did we already paid, I remember the gas well was closed. We paid that outside of closing?
We've not paid anything at this point for either the asbestos or the gas well.
Okay. Is that in here? I mean, what am I,
No, that's not part of the settlement stuff.
okay.
That was, if you recall, those were items that were discovered,
So
and,
we're doing it after we acquire it?
Correct.
Okay.
and there may be grant funds that would cover those costs.
Because I guess it's been a while since I looked at this, and it wasn't in this packet, but I don't remember significant asbestos removal
No, it was,
abatement.
it was a fairly minor amount. I think,
I think it was $8,900
okay.
was the quote, I believe.
Okay, those are my questions. Any other questions, comments? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve the manor closing documents.
So moved?
So moved by Ms. Clear,
Second?
second by Ms. Mitchell. I call for a vote. Mr. Olet,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
No.
Ms. Clear,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, that is approved. Number 11 is the law enforcement training access agreement with Millcreek Township.
yes, this agreement is needed. The Millcreek Township Police Department has requested the opportunity to use the Bel Air for a training facility, to do non-destructive training within the building. It offers a unique location for them, because of the hotel nature of it. They don't get many opportunities to practice and train in this type of setting, so it's ideal for them to do so. This site access agreement is essentially required by the insurance companies to make sure that the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, the right kinds of insurance are in place, and so forth. So that's the purpose of this agreement. The Board of Supervisors did approve this agreement this morning, so the recommendation would be to approve this, and it provides essentially for up to 10 days for the police department to use this facility for training.
And just for the benefit of everybody, I had called Mr. Waldiger before, and there's not, walls aren't being taken. We haven't decided what's going to happen with the property, so there will be no
That's why it's-
modifications, or there's no
That's why it's
burning down the
non-destructive.
building or anything like that, right? We're basically just allowing them access to help them. Okay. Any questions or comments? If not, would someone like to make a motion to approve the
I'll make a
access
motion,
agreement?
Dave.
So moved by Mr. Bach,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Olet. I'll call for a vote. Mr. Olet,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Ms. Clear,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So the law enforcement training access agreement is approved.
Mr. Chairman, I would note that there have been other agencies that have approached us to do similar type of things, so I suspect we'll hear some more over the next couple of months from other law enforcement agencies that similarly see this as a great opportunity for training.
Great, okay, thank you. Okay, agenda item number 12. Would any citizens like to speak on any items not related to the agenda?
Sue Weber, 5338 Norris Drive. With all due respect to a comment that was just made to me, this is not a question and answer period. Oh, it most certainly is. A public body answers questions from the taxpayers. That's the way it's supposed to be. And when I sat in your seat, you three township supervisors, if anybody came to a meeting and asked me a question, I answered it, or I said, I don't know the answer, but I'll get it for you. You are accountable to the taxpayers. Number two of you have publicly stated that this is a loan. The money that the township gave you is a loan. Where are the loan documents? Do you have any, Mr. Bach? Do you have any signed loan documents that the township's loaning the authority money?
Are you saying I made that statement?
No, I'm asking you. No, you did not make the statement. I'm
Oh, okay.
asking you. Do you have
Well-
any loan documents?
Your question,
Does the
kind of-
township have
kind
any
of-
loan documents that it lent the authority money?
I have never seen any. That would be a question for our treasurer.
Do you have any loan documents? No. Okay. Who gives someone a loan without any loan documents, and who gives someone a loan who has no income to pay it back? That wouldn't make any sense to me. And you have been asked this, all of you, over and over and over again, and you refuse to answer it. And I think it's because you don't have an answer. Why did you pay so much more than these properties were appraised at with public money? Do you have an answer?
I will, Ms. Weber, I'll give you an answer. You have a willing buyer and you have a willing seller. We engaged a professional firm to negotiate the best agreement we can. We fought for the common good. What we paid was the right amount. And if you've been following real estate prices, you can use, prior years' numbers. Every property is a little bit different, especially commercially, and there aren't always great comparables, especially in a community like this. So we felt like what we paid was the right amount, and it was the right use of the funds, and we agreed to acquire those properties.
It wasn't the right amount.
Well,
And
that's your opinion.
any realtor can tell you that. The last thing is, you've cost the township, the county, and the school districts hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost taxes. None of these properties were on the market for sale through a commercial realtor because Joe Roots was only for rent. No one's going to lease a building that looks like that. If you had left things alone and let the private market take care of this, it would have, and these things would still be on the tax rolls. The only other one that was really for sale was the sandbar. And what's really, really interesting is you're paying them what they were asking on the private market that the private market would not give them. Because you're not getting the goodwill, you're not getting the liquor license, and you're not getting the equipment. So you took public money and you paid them what they wanted that even the private market would not give them, and I think that's terrible. And in closing, let me say, if you've ever been to a beach town at the ocean or a lake or anything, the sandbar is exactly what people go to. They're at the beach, they're sweaty, they're sandy, they come up there, they have a burger or a beer, especially young people. That's exactly what you need there. So why you think there's something wrong with that and you have to demolish it is beyond me. If you had problems there with disorderly conduct, you have a police department, and you could have taken care of it, and you could have fined that person until that behavior stopped. So to get rid of that is ridiculous. Again, I would like to see these loan documents. Please provide them.
Thank you. I will give you an answer on that because sometimes I think it's very difficult to see a vision, and you always look inside the box. And I can tell you, if you look at what the Erie Downtown Development Corporation did, and if you look at what they paid for some of those properties, and if you look at what that looks like today, it is 180 degrees different than what it was. You had a very similar situation that you had at McDonald's, where it was a drug haven, there was all kinds of crime, and that's not unlike what we've seen at the sandbar. And it's very good to put it on the police and say, well, go do your job. It's not quite that easy. And just because you think we overpaid doesn't mean we overpaid. So, thank you.
I asked you this before in a meeting. Don't tell me that your bank, if someone wanted to take a $2 million loan, get a $2 million purchase price for something, and it appraised at $1 million, that you would give them that loan. You would never do that, but you're doing that with public money.
Well, you just asked us about the appraisal, and we said there wasn't an appraisal. So it's not even a. It's not even, seriously, I'm not trying to be smart, but it's not even a legitimate hypothetical question because you're not dealing with apples to apples.
Any of you who were buying a house for $300,000 with your own money, if the appraisal came in at $100,000, you never paid $300 for it, and that's just what you did with our money, with the exception of Mr. Ball.
Okay, thank you.
Mary Ellen Majock, 5405 Appleman Road. I have a couple different things. On March 22nd, Tom Smith, I don't know if he's a real estate broker, agent, what have you, he came to this authorities meeting and was asking questions. And he was told, just like tonight, earlier, we don't answer questions. I don't think that's right either, as Sue just said. So I looked it up. Under the Open Records Sunshine Act Open Meetings Law, in the FAQs, which I hope you all did go to Sunshine Law and Open Records Act training before you got these appointments and positions. But anyway, can the public ask questions during the comment period? Yes. Although members of the agency are not required, italicized, to provide an answer, it is a good practice to do so whenever possible. Answering questions can demonstrate a commitment to helping constituents, and in many cases, answering questions informally at a public meeting can reduce future requests under the Right to Know law, saves time and money for both the agency and the commenter and requester. And furthermore, you don't have situations where people come to these meetings going, what's this thing on the agenda? What's this thing on the agenda? Since February, when the news release came out, we've been calling out, many of us have been coming and calling out about the transparency of this whole deal. And that's why we're all still coming, because of the transparency of it. Yeah, if you dug back far enough into the records, you'd see the June 22nd agreement from 2022 where Altair was hired. You'd see the October 11th meeting where the authority was called. But not everybody does that, and you knew this. You knew this. So that's where we are now. This morning, I was out running errands, and I came home, and I turned on the authority meeting. The supervisor's meeting on YouTube. And a gentleman got up to ask about the schoolhouse, which, that's my biggest concern, because we can't do anything about what already happened here. And the chairman, Mr. Bach, started to answer the man who was asking the question, and he was interrupted. And one of the answers that was given is, no, we don't have any primary sources to prove that it was a schoolhouse, okay? Do you know what a primary source is and why it's needed? You don't have to answer. A primary source can be almost anything. Examples include census records, court records, newspaper articles, photographs, architectural plans, buildings, and everyday objects. A primary source isn't needed to preserve and incorporate a building that many people want to save and have incorporated into these development plans. The final thing I have, and I'll just email this to you instead of reading it to you, but there are 6 practical reasons to save old historic buildings. Number 1, they have intrinsic value. They were built by different standards. A century-old building might be better long-term, better than its brand-new counterparts. Number 2, when you tear down an old building, you never know what's being destroyed. You guys have gone in there, a few of you have. You see how thick the walls are. You see the exposed brick in the basement. You see, that, it's only on a map. We don't know if that map is indicating that this is really the building that these people are saying it is. But you know that there's a concept, and you know that there are citizens who are supporting this incorporation into this plan. The next one is when you tear down an old building, you never know what's being destroyed. Third one is new businesses prefer old buildings. Have you gone to historic districts in any town, anywhere? I just went to a really cool place in the Finger Lakes, and there was an old theater, an old theater like the Shaw Theater, which Erie doesn't have anymore. We do have the Warner Theater, thank you, Becky and your husband, in part. But anyway, people prefer old buildings. There was a really neat old theater in this town in the Finger Lakes that was turned into a brewery and a restaurant. Tiny little place, probably sat about, maybe 100 people in its day. It was absolutely phenomenal. So they're making some money. And they probably got grant money too. Anyway, number 4, old buildings attract people. Yep, tourism. People go to tour old buildings when they come to visit Presque Isle and so forth. They go to the Maritime Museum. That's not old, but the building's old. Old buildings are reminders of cities' culture and complexity. And the last one, regret only goes one way. You tear it down, there's no chance to renovate it or reincorporate it into a plan. So my final request to you is when you get Ingalls to come in and do the charrette, that you ask them to include it, the schoolhouse, the Laird Schoolhouse, schoolhouse number 2, the predecessor of the Scott Schoolhouse, which likely is going to be demolished, that you ask Ingalls to incorporate the Laird building into their charrettes to show the people how it could be worked into a plan to bring all those tourists and shoppers and sightseers and everything else to that corner of Millcreek Township that you're trying to develop. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I will call your attention to the fact that we have not formally decided what we're going to do with the schoolhouse. It was reflected in the minutes from last meeting, and we'll reflect it again in these minutes, but we've made no decisions. Thank you.
Carol Blake, 2216 South Shore Drive. I would like to address some key items regarding your work as an authority and this large project you are undertaking. Mr. Zimmer, you contacted Cal Pfeiffer at the Hagen Historical Center on April 24th via email with several questions about the history and background of the school building, which is located on the north side of West 8th Street. Because there is a paucity of factual information given to the public, I mean actual facts about this project, citizens are forced to file right-to-know requests to determine what kind of information may exist. Almost 2 months later, we are unaware what response you should have received from this communication. Then this morning at the supervisors' meeting, a citizen asked about the schoolhouse. When Mr. Bach began to tell the gentleman what he knows about the building, you interrupted Mrs. Clare and quite succinctly declared you have no conclusive evidence or any primary sources to confirm it was a school, but you are in contact and continue to be in contact with the Hagen History Museum and the Historical Society. You have been telling me since February, Mrs. Clare, that you are in touch with the Historical Museum/Society. So we are now 4 months down the road, and you are still insisting on putting out this misdirected narrative that this may never have been a school. It's not, that you have no proof. There are many other resources than just the History Center and the History Society. And why is it you have nothing to share about what those organizations have turned up? What do you consider a primary source? This is a book written by Mrs. Patricia Polifrone. I believe she made sure that you indeed have a copy, Mrs. Clare. There is documentation in this. What have you done to determine the veracity of what she published? We are in contact with 2 older Millcreek residents whose fathers both attended the school. Would you like us to find a way to acquaint you with those people? How are we this far into this conversation and this proposed project, and you are still claiming you are researching? How is that possible? Or better asked, why is that happening? And lastly, I am wondering if you have planned to discuss with the public your effort to seek tax release on all of these properties. Anyone paying attention knows that the Millcreek School District has gone on record against this effort for very obvious reasons. They would stand to lose a large amount of needed revenue. This move will indeed end up affecting all of your constituency. Again, your constituents, the taxpayers of Millcreek, cannot really pay attention if they are not being really informed. Thank you.
And again, for the record, I will state that we've made no decisions, and we are in a fact-finding situation, and we are being patient. There's no reason to rush. We're in accumulation phase in terms of the properties that have been or going to be acquired, and we will continue to look at it. I can tell you that I did have a discussion with Cal, and he is skeptical in terms of the historical significance of the property, and he has suggested, and it's something that we will discuss, he suggested hiring an architect to recommend whether or not it is historical in nature or not historical in nature. And I understand that your opinions and some of your information, if you read my email, I'm not an expert in this, and I take what you say as serious, but just because you say it doesn't mean that that's what we're going to do or what we're not going to do. We're trying to make the best decision for the authority, and if you don't think that we are seriously considering this or seriously trying to get as much information as we can before we make this decision, then you are not informed, because we are taking this very seriously. Whether or not we agree with you or not agree with you ultimately, and I don't know what everybody else on the board is, but I can tell you from my standpoint, I will get as much information before I will tell you I recommend taking down the schoolhouse or leaving it up. So, thank you. Okay, do we have any other citizens' comments? If not, I believe, do we have a need to go into executive session? If so, I will, we needed a motion to go into executive session?
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion to enter executive session?
I'll make a motion to enter executive session.
So moved by Ms. Clear, second by Mr. Olet. Call for a vote, Mr. Olet,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yeah.
Ms. Clear,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
and I vote yes. We are moving into executive session. Thank you.
Just so folks know, there won't be any action taken as a result of executive session. The meeting will then simply come back together for adjournment. You and Jim can double down.
Already won. That's enough. Cut my loss.
Okay, we need a motion to return to the regular meeting, correct? I have a motion to
So
Motion to adjourn?
You're jumping the gun, we gotta get back.
A
first.
motion to return, then adjourn.
So moved to,
I didn't mean to
return.
speak over you.
Mr. Olet and Ms. Clear, second, how about that?
Second.
Okay, move on to Mr. Olet.
Out of control,
Yes.
we're out of
Mr.
control.
Bach,
Yes.
Ms. Clear,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
I vote yes, so we're back in the regular meeting, now we need a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
So moved by Mr. Olet, and second by
I'll second.
Mr. Bach. Okay, vote to adjourn, Mr. Olet,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Ms. Clear,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Please,
I
yes.
vote yes, and we're officially adjourned, thank you very much. And everybody has to, there's a few signatures needed here.
Okay.